Hi, it's Chris Moore with Senior Remodeling Experts. Welcome to Aging in Place is a Team Sport. It's a video series where we talk to different providers. We explore how families, professionals, and communities can come together to help older adults live safely, comfortably, and independently at home. I'm here to guide you, connect you with the right resources, and help make the rest of your life the best of your life. Welcome back to Aging in Place is a Team Sport. I'm Chris Moore with Senior Remodeling Experts, and I am honored to have with me today Brandy Archie. Welcome, Brandy.
Thanks for having me. I'm so glad to be here and have this conversation.
Awesome. So tell me about what position you play in the team sport of Aging in Place.
Nice. Okay, so if I'm going to pick an actual position, because I'm going to go with your theme real hardcore, I'm an occupational therapist by training, and OTs across the board and across the country, I think, play the role of coach in the aging in place community. And so what our job is to help people be safe and as independent as possible, taking care of themselves, no matter what their level of ability is or will be in the future. And so our job is really to help make sure you get connected with the right things to either rehabilitate yourself, make your body be as good as it can be, or modify your environment so that it can support you the way your body is working now and the way it might be working in the future, or the way your brain is working. So we try to be the overarching layer to be like, let me give you some guidance as to what you might expect and what things you might be able to change in order to do what your goal is, which is to age in place. So that's OT's role on the team. And as an individual, my practice is called Ask Sammy. And in that coach role, we try to give you the ability to get 24/7 access to those kinds of answers so you can age in place.
Very good. Well, the more I learn about OTs, I'm constantly surprised and enthused by all of the different areas that OTs touch because, on the surface of it, a lot of people think occupational, oh, that's work related. They work with workers' comp cases. Mm-hmm. And, then I found out that, occupation means just whatever you're doing, whatever your activity happens to be that maybe you need some help or some support with. OTs do that. And that goes way beyond, I think, what people who are not OTs really understand. Because that can involve everything from activities of daily living to how we interact with our environment and how we think about our environment and how we just really imagine what our day-to-day life might look like in the context of maybe a particular condition or accident or even just in the absence of all of that, just as able-bodied individuals, how can we perform certain aspects of our life in a better way that is more effective and efficient?
Yes, exactly. That's a great description. And I think part of the reason that it has had like 100-year-long marketing problem is that occupational therapy looks different for each person that you are working with. And so whereas what a lawyer does, lawyers have lots of verticals, right? And you have lawyers that are focused on elder law, right? And but they're all doing the same thing, which is in our specific vertical, we're making sure that the legal aspect is being complied to, right? And we're helping make sure that's effective for you on both sides. For occupational therapy, though, like you might have a kid who's having a hard time paying attention in school, and that OT looks like play. And you might also have an OT working with somebody who's 80 and wants to modify their home so they can stay living in place. And that doesn't look like play. And it also doesn't look like ergonomics for work. And so it's really about what your goals are as an individual. And in this context, we're experts at helping you decide what we can do to modify your environment. And the environment is not just your house. The environment is also like the activities that you do, the ways that you care for your health, everything external to you that can help support you and, to your words, be more effective and efficient at it.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm exploring is the idea of what I am tentatively calling the lifetime vitality blueprint. which is the idea that we would create home environments for people that would support a great, healthy, and long life in so many ways. Because as a contractor, specializing in accessibility, oftentimes I have been involved in reactive modifications.
100%.
So after someone has had, an event, has fallen and broken a bone, or has been diagnosed with some kind of progressive condition, we come in and we modify the home to make it more user friendly. But it's begun to occur to me, what if we create homes that are supportive of a great life before there's an issue? And how would it be possible to extend our health span through proactive measures, whether those be home modifications, whether those be lifestyle changes, whether those be habit changes, diet, exercise, sleep, all of those things that we all know can help support a healthier life.
What are some of the ideas that you have for things that could be built in up front that could be helping our lifespan long term?
Well, an example might be, an exercise room, right? It might be a space where we encourage people to exercise. Lighting, lots of natural lighting, having circadian rhythms in our electrical lighting so that we can create moods that work at the time of day and for the activities that are going on. Things like kitchens that are designed to support more nutritional foods, maybe even a built-in hydroponic garden in one corner of the kitchen or something like that. These are all kind of some of the things I'm thinking of, beyond the idea that, okay, we want wider doorways and non-slip flooring and, zero step entries and accessible bathrooms and those things. I would love to get to the point where those things are just understood.
Normal everyday things we do all the time.
Everyday, ordinary things. We got a long way to go to get there, but that would be awesome.
I love that concept and the ideas that you have too, because so universal design is the concept of like what you're saying we should have as our baseline, right? Zero step entry, things like that. But it doesn't go so far as to like facilitate us doing the healthy behaviors that help us have long life. But there has been a movement around doing that in our community environments, right? And it's really interesting to think about doing that in your actual home environment. For example, like have the concept of the blue zones, in which different areas of the world, very different cultures across each of them, have the highest rate of people living to be over 100 years old. And so people have been studying them and saying, like, what are the themes here? And they took those themes and applied it to an American city that was not a blue zone. And so the things were, there's like 9 or 12 themes, but how that turned into this Minnesota city was like they restructured the streets so that the streets from the neighborhoods actually had direct access to the downtown area so that you could get to the city market and so that you could walk there and not necessarily drive there. And they had more street lights, so you felt comfortable walking. And they put sidewalks in everybody's neighborhood, so you felt comfortable moving, and put bodegas and different things close by so you could be like, oh, I'm actually not going to get in the car. I'm going to walk to go here. And there's more fresh fruits and vegetables here because we've set up the system to sustain that as just one of the things that they did. And so to think about doing that for your own house, I think is even more powerful because that's actually something you can do. Like each of us as individuals can't just go change our cities. But as individuals, we can certainly make our houses more friendly to the behaviors that we want to see happening, if that makes sense. Like a small example is like, in my house, I have 3 little kids, husband, and I don't buy desserts. I'm not saying we don't eat desserts. I don't buy desserts and keep them in the house so that we don't eat them all the time. But what I do leave out is fruits and vegetables. So fruits and vegetables are out all the time, apples and bananas, and the kids can go get that anytime they want. They want a snack of some other kind, they got to ask about it. But the fruits and vegetables are sitting there in your eyesight, right? So if you're hungry, the first thing you see is an apple. Okay, great, I'll eat an apple, as opposed to a jar of cookies, right? Like that's like a small tweak that you can do to like influence the way your brain thinks about it.
Yeah. It's like out of sight, out of mind. I mean, if it's right there, And those are things that, and it's interesting you talking about the walkability and the social aspect of it, because that's a very important piece. And I remember in the blue zones, one of the things that was common to all the blue zones was that they all had a very strong sense of community. They were
100%.
all very interactive in the way they dealt with their family and their neighbors and their, other people around them. And I think that's so important. And in our modern society, so often, we're so isolated. We're so, you're just your own immediate family. And then you're so busy with everything. And then you really don't have a lot of interaction outside of that, other than electronic, which is not the same.
It's not the same. It's okay, but it's not the same. Well, there's one structural thing that we have changed over the years to our individual homes that I think has facilitated this set of isolation. And it is, we don't have front porches, right? You drive into your garage, and I'm not going to be a hater. I love my garage and going into my house. Like, that's great. And one reason we picked that after we moved from a condo and I had to park on the street, I wanted that. But also that eliminates this opportunity to walk in your front door or sit on your front porch and see your neighbors and say hi and communicate with them, right? Because you're in your car, you're not walking, you're in your car, you drive into your garage, you shut the garage door, you go in the house. There's zero chance for interaction with others, right? And that seems slight, maybe, and it is a major convenience, but it eliminates opportunity to know your neighbors, right? Which is a key aspect of having more community built in and around you, as opposed to being forced to like, okay, I'm going to find a church or I'm going to go to this community center. Those are all good things. I'm just saying what you're saying about like livability and like having our environment support a longer lifespan means we involve the things that we want to see happen into our everyday life, as opposed to an external thing that we have to actively go do or maybe even spend money on. Like your hydroponic gardening, for example. If I got a fish tank and I'm growing stuff out of the top of the fish tank, I'm going to want to eat it, right? Or I see it, it's there. And now it's like, oh, I want to do more of that because it's already accessible to me. So I think leaving out community in the way we structure our homes has been challenging.
Yes. I was at the International Builder Show in Orlando last month, and there was a seminar on what is termed missing middle housing. And I was not familiar with that term, but the missing middle is basically anything between a single family home and a high-rise apartment building. It could be a duplex. It could be a triplex. It could be, cluster housing. It could be an ADU. It could be any of these kind of alternative housing where it's more conducive to like the front porch. It's more conducive to people interacting, to people having, more social connection, because, that's such an important part of health. It really is. Yeah.
It is. I mean, there's been so many studies that have connected your ability to have community and social engagement with your health outcomes. And if you don't have that direct connection, your health outcomes are directly impacted, right? From well-reviewed scientific studies, including like meta-analysis, which is the top level of our research. And so it feels maybe fluffy because people don't think it's connected, but it is directly connected. And so making sure that you have that built in, which is kind of one of the only reasons why I'm for people aging in place. And if you want to live at your home, that's great. But if you live by yourself and you don't have any social connection and you haven't found a way to do that well, like through whatever other means in your community, it might be better to move into assisted living, because then you have built-in community there as long as you're willing to come out of your room and participate, right? Like taking all of those things into consideration is really important for your whole person health, not just, one aspect of you.
Yeah. And that's one of the major challenges of aging in place. When you decide, hey, I'm going to stay in my home, then it's up to you and your support network to come up with all of these parts and pieces that would be provided for you in an alternative type of setting. And it's interesting because years ago, Stony Brook University on Long Island in New York has done a bunch of studies in aging in place and, aging in community. And you start to think about, okay, we're going to have people living in their homes, and then we're going to we're going to provide these services and we're going to make sure that they have everything that they need. And we're going to provide this and that and the other thing. And then a PACE is another example, a program for all inclusive care for the elderly, where those services are provided in kind of a community center. And there's lots of different models to provide the care. And my take is always that, one size doesn't fit all.
Yeah.
And, what might be just really distasteful to one person would be, just a great environment to somebody else. We're all different. People have different levels of need for social interaction. Some people are very extroverted and draw energy from, being the life of the party and being around a lot of people all the time. And other people, that's like, oh my God, that's anxiety inducing. So, I think that's part of our challenge as providers is to take the time to understand the needs and the wants and the desires of the people that we're working with. And then figure out a way to meet those needs.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's a lot of what goes into occupational therapy evaluations when you're trying to think about aging in place. Not just what do we need to change here, but what supports do we need to add in order to make sure that you have all the things that you need for whole person health and in a way that suits you, right? So a good example, in an example of me evaluating a client, yes, we're going to come in and I'm going to say, okay, this person has Parkinson's. I know that this is going to probably get worse. They currently live by themselves. What things do we need to do to help keep them safe here? Also, what things do you used to like to do, right? Okay, maybe we can get our interaction from going back to this community center. You already have silver sneakers. You can get in free. Let me give you the information for that. It's a matter of like understanding the landscape of what's happening in your community and then deciding what pieces need to be added together. And when you have I'm not saying that OTs are the only ones who can do it. I'm just saying we're the ones whose minds are tuned to doing that and considering your health as a part of that. But regardless, it's really important that you're thinking about all the pieces, not just eating and sleeping and getting to the toilet. Those are key. You need to do those things well in order to live at home, but you also need to be able to eat healthfully, communicate with others, be able to get in and out of the house well. So you're going out for fun things and not just doctor's appointments. Because when you don't, your life shrinks and you stay in the house. And when you stay in the house, you have less steps that you're taking, like less movement that you're doing, less purpose and reason for getting up. And when you have no purpose for getting up and going, your lifespan decreases. And we often die from cardiovascular disease. And like the studies show that too. So humans are complex, and that's what's wonderful about us. And we need complex systems in order to be healthful.
Right. And purpose is so important. I mean, if you lose purpose, it's, you're kind of on a downward spiral.
You're on a downward spiral because what's the reason for getting out of bed, right?
Exactly.
And those social connections that you were talking about at the blue zones, they were tied to purpose, right? Like in Japan, they had these purposeful age-related like groups of people. Like they intentionally said to themselves, hey, you're going to be my person, my 3 people, and we're going to work together to live life, right? Like, this is not like their kids and their husband. This is like somebody separate. And they had a name for this group of friends, and it was culturally like the norm to have this group of friends that was intended for this purpose of lifelong friendship, right? There's so many ways to go about doing it, but just having words to talk about it and ways to engage with it and a reason for getting up in the morning is beyond useful.
Yeah, 100%. So tell me more about Ask Sammy.
Sure. So Ask Sammy is a website you can go to. And our AI tool, Sammy, has been trained by us as occupational therapists to answer your questions about how to live safely at home and thinking about whole health. So you can ask things like, my mom recently had a stroke and is having a hard time getting in the house. She also can't dress herself. What can I do? And even though that's a complex situation, it will walk you through the results. Like, here's some pieces of adaptive equipment that you can add to the house to help with getting in and out of the house and for dressing. Here's some clinicians that's focused specifically on stroke care that can help. Here's some resources like payment for these things or community engagement activities or stroke support groups that can be added into your plan of care so that we can be well supported. And all of that sits in one place. and it's been vetted by us as occupational therapists. That way, you know that it's a trusted resource and you can just find the right resource for you as opposed to wondering if it's good or not.
Wow. And so you put in your location and it gives you like local resources for where you are.
Yeah. You can put your zip code in to our resource finder and it will help you find things directly to your community. The things that we have listed on the website are accessible nationwide. So we have those resources available to you and you can buy the adaptive equipment directly from us. And then on our pages, we give you the links directly to those resources that you might need, whether it's a service like a fall alert button, or a resource like how can I use my Silver Sneakers membership in my community. We get you to the right place so you can take the action, so you can get started with it. That's the goal.
Wow. That's amazing.
Thanks.
How long has this been available?
It is an ever evolving ecosystem. And it had our first rendition of it came out in about 2023. So it's been alive for about 3 years.
Okay. And is this a subscription model? Is it
No, it's free for users. So you can come use Ask Sammy for free. If you find adaptive equipment that you need, like a ramp or a grab bar or a shower chair, you can purchase that from us. So you have to pay for that. But the access to the things to the knowledge and the information is free. I feel very strongly that in this age, you should be able to get information that's quality easily. And so there's plenty of other barriers. Let us not have the access to the information be the barrier. So yeah, you can come ask Sammy as many questions as you want to do 24/7 and get connected to the right resource. And that resource might cost something, but using Ask Sammy does not.
Okay. And so I assume you get affiliate commissions on the.
We're store. So just like you go to your
okay. So that's how you support your work is through the product sales. Gotcha. Yep. Okay. I love that.
Thanks. It came out of my work in going to people's homes and doing home assessments. And so we built a practice here in Kansas City, Missouri, where I'm based, in which I was doing that, finding this hole in which people would go home from the hospital, not know what they needed, end up back in the hospital. And so it's like, this don't have to be this way. We just need to get the information earlier and then you can solve it. And so we did that and it worked well, but the way we had things set up, we had to drive there to see your space and then assess the situation and then prescribe the right equipment, services, and resources. And I didn't like having to say no to people who were outside of our driving range because that doesn't seem to make sense. They still needed help and I didn't have a resource to refer them to. So with the advent of technology expanding and becoming more accessible, we're like, how can I take what we're doing in person and provide it to you in a digital aspect, which means you can access it 24/7, as opposed to only when I have or one of my team members has a slot open to come see you. So that hopefully some of these problems can get solved sooner and not as reactive. Maybe we can be more proactive, exploring what we might need, even if we don't need it yet, so that you know how to activate it when you do.
Yeah. Well, I know that people become caregivers suddenly. And, one day everything's fine. The next day, they're faced with taking care of a loved one and have really no idea in the world where to start.
Right.
I've seen this over and over and over where people are just stretched to the breaking point and they're overwhelmed and they don't know what questions to ask, much less who to ask them to or anything else. And it can be very, very overwhelming. And so having resources is so important. So how are you getting the word out that this service exists?
Yeah.
Because like I said, people, when they need it, they need it. And the rest of the time, they're not really thinking about it.
That's true.
For the most part.
So we're trying to do it in a couple of ways because that is really keen insight, right? So first of all, we answer a lot of questions. And what is Google but an answer engine, right? And so we show up when you search particular questions because we spend a lot of time making sure that information is on our website. So more than half of our traffic comes from people who are searching for the answer either on their AI or in Google, and then we're getting referred by those places to come here and find expert information. And the other half of our traffic comes from other clinicians. And so while OTs are expert at doing this work, not everybody does this work like this, right? When you're in acute care or in rehab, they're working on rehabilitating your body and help you learn how to transfer and get dressed. Not necessarily, here are the exact things that you need for your home in order to make it work. Sometimes, yes, but not in as detailed as a way as somebody who comes to your home to do it. And so OTs like to refer us because it takes a little bit of load off of their plate, right? And they can be like, hey, I know you need some help at home, and these are the things I think you should need. Go to Ask Sammy, and they'll help you figure out the details and like narrow down to exactly the right stuff for you. Because one of the problems is that you might know you need a shower chair or a grab bar, but if you get the wrong one or put it in the wrong place, it's sometimes a hurt instead of a help. And certainly, that's not what we need to have happen. I cannot tell you how many garages I've seen full of perfectly good equipment that they're not using because it doesn't meet their needs in that space. Either it doesn't work for their space or it doesn't work for their body. And now it's wasted money. And we still haven't solved the problem. So actually getting to the root of like specifically what's needed, not just go to Amazon and find a shower chair. No, this type of chair, specifically a tub bench, is best for you because of XYZ. Then you get what solves the problem. So we get a lot of referrals from other clinicians and providers who use us as a resource.
So if I go to the website and put in a question, say I ask a question about a situation that I'm having, but I don't put in very much detail, will it come back and ask me clarifying questions to get more?
It will.
Okay.
Yeah, to get more details to make sure we're getting you to the right place. It'll give you more, it'll ask more questions. And then also when you get to the product page, we have a section that says why we know this works. And we talk specifically about like, this works great for XYZ kind of problem and or person. It doesn't work great for this place, this kind of thing. So that you can see for yourself that like, this is for me or this is not for me.
Right. Yeah, because every situation is different. And we've done a lot of home modifications, and some of the standard, you think about grab bars. Well, if you've got a quadriplegic, grab bars aren't going to really help a whole lot.
Right. Even though that's the thing that people know is like, oh, I need grab bars. Like,
right.
This situation, you don't need grab bars. You need a better shower chair, right?
Yeah.
That's going to help you transfer in and out of there because you're not going to be standing to use it. You need something that's going to support you this way. It's just, people just don't know, right? There's no reason to have known. You just know what you've heard a lot of. And we've heard a lot about fall alert buttons. Help me, I can't get up. Stair lifts, walk-in tubs, and grab bars. So those are the things that people lean toward.
Right. Right. And I mean, the fall alert buttons in particular and the walk-in tubs, from my experience, are not that effective in most cases.
Agreed.
Right. The fall alert buttons, people put them on the dresser and they don't have them with them, or they don't want to push the button and bother anybody, or they've hit their head and they're unconscious, or, for any number of reasons, they may not be very effective. And walk-in tubs, certainly, we went and looked at a job where the client had paid $27,000 for a walk-in tub and couldn't get in it.
And couldn't get in because there's still a step.
Could not get in it. It was the installer of the walk-in tub had taken out a shower, left the elevated shower floor, and so it had like a pretty steep ramp leading up to the door of the walk-in tub. And so the client, their wheelchair was on an angle coming up to the tub, and he couldn't transfer out of the chair into the tub. And so paid us to take the brand new walk-in tub out and donate it to Habitat and put in a curbless shower.
Oh my gosh. That's the thing I hate to hear, but it's not the first time I've heard it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so, but that's exactly the point. It's like the things that we have been marketed to a lot are not necessarily the right answer for everybody, right? And there's also differences to each of those things. Like, every walk-in tub is not the same as every other walk-in tub. And so you need the right thing for your situation. And there's no blanket answer that can just be like, everybody needs to do this. And so just get your money together and do this. It's not the right thing. I mean, sometimes people want to keep their bedroom upstairs because doing the stairs is their exercise and they do it functionally and effectively. So great. Let's just add another railing on the other side so you can hold on regardless. And you keep doing the stairs. Other people, it's like, this doesn't make sense. Your fall risk, you need a stair lift, or we need to bring the bedroom downstairs. Like, everybody's situation is different. And that's why you need somebody to guide you through this and help you think through all of your options.
Right. Right. And the support network. I often talk about the best solutions are found at the intersection of the person, the place, and the support network. So, the place, what are the features of the home? What are the person's abilities? What are their financial resources? What are their challenges? And then what is their support network? And I think that has been a very effective framework for me in educating people, and consider all of the parameters, consider where you are, what the progression of your situation is likely to be, and then make an informed decision. And I think that process is where, we really can use improvement, because so much of it is reactive, because people don't want to think about it. They don't want to think about, they have this image that getting older means getting weaker and sicker, and they don't want to get weaker and sicker. So they don't want to think about getting older. So they just pretend that they're not.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was what led me to write my book, Age Out Loud, and, talking about, you don't have to get weaker and sicker. You can change your mindset. You can change your habits. You can change your lifestyle. You can move the needle on your own behalf pretty much across the board in some way, shape, or form. If you are proactive, if you take responsibility for your life and your health, and not just concede that, this is, I'm all going downhill from here. And I think that awareness of that mindset is so critical to the whole equation, really.
Yeah, it totally is. To take it back to the Blue Zones example, people there live to be over 100, right, on a regular basis. So two things are happening at the same time. One, everybody in the community sees that living to 100 in a vibrant way is possible. So the mindset that you just talked about doesn't have to exist, because I see evidence that that something else can be true, right? And when we don't see that around us, it's hard to think differently, right, about how you could be. So that's one thing, just being around it, or even recognizing that, like, hey, living to 100 doesn't mean I have to be in the bed for 20 years, right? And I happen to live to 100. No, these people are living to 100, not like dying to 100. They're living to 100, right? And doing active things. And one of the stories that stood out to me the most there was from a Latin American country. I can't remember which one it was, where that Blue Zone was at.
Costa Rica.
It was Costa Rica, because this guy was riding a horse and working. He was 100 and he was still working. He was, and he was doing very active work, and so, and he was like, I need money to survive, but also I need to do this to survive too. I need to be out and moving and living my life. Otherwise, what am I doing? Right. And so, in that way, thinking about, it can be really fun, I think, to think about your home supporting you that in the ways that you just talked about, like, what behaviors do I want to keep doing until I'm 100, and how can I make this home, make that easy for me to do? I think that's fun to think about, as opposed to, I'm probably not going to be able to do the stairs. These knees are getting bad. I guess I'm going to have to think about a stair lift, or like, do we need to move? As opposed to thinking about it from the positive aspect, and, what can I do to keep doing the things that I want to do? And when you do it in advance, you can do that. When you wait, you can't do that. You've got to do something to get out the hospital.
Right. Yeah. And the sooner you start, the better it's going to be. I have an interview in my book with a man by the name of Dale Sanders, and he's 90 years old, and he is through hiking the Appalachian Trail currently. And he's going to be 91 when he finishes, and he's setting the Guinness Book of World Records as the oldest person. He had it at 82, and then somebody came and took it away from him, and now he's getting it back at 90. He'll be 91 when he finishes.
It's like, listen, I got to defend the title.
Yeah. And I got to meet him and interviewed him and hiked with him for, 4.5 miles. And he kept saying, we're going downhill. We can go a little faster. And
he's like, catch up, bro. You're slowing me down.
So, and you're right. It inspires people when you see people doing this. It's like I've got the story in my book of Roger Bannister and the 4-minute mile.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the early 50s, everybody knew that it was impossible for a human being to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. Your heart would explode. All the scientific journals said so. Mm-hmm. And Roger Bannister, I guess, didn't read the journals, because he ran the mile in 3:59 something, and he held that record for 43 days, because as soon as other people saw that it was possible,
they're like, oh,
all of a sudden other elite runners started running the mile in less than 4 minutes.
Uh-huh.
But if you believe it's impossible, you're not going to do it. If you believe it's impossible to live to 100 and be healthy, you're not going to make the choices that make that achievable. So it comes down to belief, comes down to mindset. One of the books I read when I was writing my book is called Breaking the Age Code by Becca Levy. She's a Yale professor, and her research shows that on average, you live 7.5 years longer just by having a positive mindset about aging. That you believe aging is a good thing, and you're thankful to be waking up another day and living another year, and you're grateful that you have lived a long life, and you live 7.5 years longer.
Yeah, I mean, it makes all the sense, and all the data backs it up. I even did a TED talk about this, about how much purpose is tied to your health outcomes. And since it is, we should be talking about it like a vital sign. Like you go to the doctor and they ask you about your pain and you check your blood pressure, because we know that when those things are out of whack, it's not good for us. We should also be asking, like, hey, what's the purpose for you getting up every morning? Why should we even do this medical treatment? Like, why should you change your diet? Because I need to walk my grandkids to the bus stop, or I need to take care of my garden, or I need to see my rose bushes bloom. Whatever it is, as long as it's meaningful for you, you got to have something identified. And when you have something identified that helps you get up in the morning, it changes the whole outcome of how your longevity is. So I don't know. Right. It's free. Why not do it?
Exactly right. Yeah. It's social determinants of health. I mean, it's like you said, it's holistic. It's not just, our physical health is over here and our emotional well-being is over here, and it's all connected. We're complex beings.
That's right.
So tell us how people can get in touch with you, how they can learn more about Ask Sammy and about your work, and how they can help spread the word.
Absolutely. So you can go to asksammy.com. That's Sammy, SAMIE.com, and find all our tools and resources. And it's also the best way to connect with us. So you hit the contact us page or give us a call. We got a 1-800 number. An occupational therapist will answer the phone. So somebody qualified to help you will be there. And we check our email. So whatever way is best for you to reach out, please do. Yeah, we're only a phone call, email, or a message away.
Well, thank you so much, Brandy. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I wish you all the best. And I hope that lots of people find out about your website and are able to get answers to their pressing questions when they're, aging in place or caring for a loved one in their homes.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed it.
All right. Thank you. And everyone, come back next time for another episode of Aging in Place is a Team Sport.